Today, we're diving into the EU's AI Act and its impact on legal AI. This groundbreaking legislation sets new standards for ethical, safe, and reliable AI, especially in high-stakes industries like law. We'll explore how the AI Act fits into the EU's broader regulatory framework and what it means for legal tech, innovation, and compliance. Get ready for a quick and insightful journey into the future of legal AI. Welcome to this episode of Legal Tech with AlphaLect.
All right, so ready to dive into this EU AI Act?
Definitely. Should be interesting.
Yeah, you sent over some articles on it. It looks pretty complex.
It is. It's huge, actually. Like the world's first try at a real comprehensive AI law.
Wow, so no more Wild West in Europe for AI then?
Yeah, I guess you could say that the EU is really trying to set some ground rules,
Makes sense though. I mean, AI is everywhere these days.
It really is. And it's only going to get more so.
So what's the EU's main goal here? Are they just trying to shut down AI development?
No, not at all. Actually, they're aiming for what they call trustworthy AI.
Trustworthy AI. I like that. It has a nice ring to it.
Right. So it's
Yeah.
about finding the right balance, keeping innovation going, but also protecting people from potential harms.
Yeah. So how are they actually going about doing that?
Well, they've come up with this risk-based system, kind of like, movie ratings.
Movie ratings like PG-13 and R and stuff.
Exactly. So the AI Act sorts different AI systems into 4 categories based
Yeah.
on how risky they are.
Okay, I'm listening. Break it down for me. What are these categories?
Okay, so at the very top, like the NC-17 of AI, you've got unacceptable risk.
Unacceptable risk sounds serious.
It is. This is like the AI that keeps ethicists up at night.
Oh, wow. What kind of AI falls into that category?
Well, think about like government-run social scoring systems.
Yeah, that's pretty dystopian.
Right. Or like toys that could manipulate kids into doing dangerous things.
Oh, wow. Yeah, no, that's got to be a hard no.
Exactly. So those kinds of AI are just banned outright under the AI Act.
Makes sense. All right, so what's next on the risk ladder?
So moving down, you've got high-risk AI.
Okay, high risk. So still pretty serious stuff.
Yeah, this is where things get, really nuanced.
How so?
Well, we're talking about systems that can have a huge impact on people's lives. Things like healthcare, education, hiring decisions, that kind of thing.
Oh, wow. Yeah, those are some high stakes areas for sure.
Right. Like imagine an AI that could diagnose diseases or grade your kids' essays.
Yeah, I see what you mean. High risk indeed. So what kind of rules apply to those types of AI?
For these, the EU is demanding like really rigorous testing and super high quality data.
Okay, that makes sense. You want to make sure it's accurate.
Exactly. And they're also insisting on human oversight to ensure things are fair and prevent any unintended consequences.
Right, so humans still have to be in the loop calling the shots.
Definitely. It's about making sure AI is used responsibly in those sensitive areas, not just letting it run wild.
Yeah, that makes sense. So what about AI that's not quite as, life-altering? Where does that fit in?
Okay, so then we've got limited risk AI. This covers things like chatbots, AI-generated content, that kind of thing.
Okay, interesting. So those aren't inherently dangerous, but they could be misused.
Right, exactly. So the key here is transparency. People need to know when they're dealing with a machine, not a human.
Ah, so no more AI pretending to be a customer service agent.
Exactly. You got to know what you're dealing with. And then finally, there's minimal risk AI.
Minimal risk. So this is the harmless stuff.
Pretty much, yeah. It covers the everyday things we don't even really think about, like spam filters, video games, that kind of thing.
Okay, so pretty much free reign for developers in that category.
Basically, yeah, the EU's not too worried about those.
All right, I think I'm getting a pretty good grasp of these categories, but it'd be helpful to see how this actually plays out in the real world. Let's take an example maybe from a field where AI is already starting to make waves, like the legal field.
Oh, the legal field. Yeah, that's a good one. It's ripe for disruption, as they say.
Right. So let's start with unacceptable risk. Can you imagine an AI being used to decide prison sentences?
Whoa, hold on, robot judge. I don't know about that.
Yeah, sounds like a recipe for disaster. Right?
Yeah, I think the EU agrees with you on that one.
Okay, so no robo-judges, but what about high-risk AI in the legal field? Where do we see that?
Well, imagine AI analyzing evidence in a criminal case.
That could be really useful, but also potentially problematic, right?
Exactly. We're talking about someone's freedom potentially being on the line.
Yeah.
So there needs to be a lot of scrutiny.
Yeah, you don't want a biased algorithm sending someone to jail.
Right, and that's something the AI Act addresses directly. It requires the data used to train these systems to be, top-notch.
So garbage in, garbage out, basically.
Exactly. The data has to be accurate, representative, and free from harmful biases. That's crucial.
All right, moving on. What about limited risk AI in law? What comes to mind?
Hmm. Well, there are those online legal chatbots that try to answer your questions.
Yeah, I've seen those. Would those be allowed under the AI Act?
They would be, but with a big caveat.
What's that?
Transparency. The user has to know they're talking to a bot, not a real lawyer.
Right, so no more pretending to be a legal expert. Informed consent is key.
Exactly. And finally, you've got minimal risk AI in law, things like organizing documents, automating routine tasks.
So basically, AI as a super efficient paralegal.
Pretty much, yeah, just streamlining processes, not making any major decisions.
All right, I think I'm getting a pretty good handle on how these risk categories apply in a real world setting. But what happens if someone ignores these rules? Are there consequences for breaking the AI Act?
Oh, absolutely. The EU is not messing around when it comes to enforcement.
Okay, I'm all ears. What kind of consequences are we talking about?
We're talking big fines, potentially millions, even billions of euros.
Wow, that's serious money.
It is. They're not playing around. They want to incentivize companies to play by the rules.
I bet that gets their attention. But who exactly is making sure everyone is following the AI Act?
That's where the European AI office comes in.
The European AI Office sounds important.
Well, they are. Think of them as like the AI watchdogs.
The AI police making sure no one is building a rogue algorithm in their basement.
Uh-huh. Yeah, something like that. They have the power to investigate, audit, enforce the rules, the whole 9 yards.
Wow, so the EU is really serious about shaping the AI landscape then.
They are. They're trying to set a precedent, not just for Europe, but for the whole world.
So the whole world is watching to see how this plays out.
You could say that the AI Act is definitely a bold move. It'll be interesting to see what kind of impact it has.
It really is a new frontier, isn't it? And the EU is out there planting their flag.
Yeah, they are. It's a fascinating time to be following AI, that's for sure.
It is. We're basically writing the rule book as we go, and the EU's taken a big swing with this one.
They are, and it's raising a lot of questions, about how we govern this technology, how we balance innovation with responsibility.
Right. Like, are they being too cautious? Will this stifle innovation? Or is this the responsible way forward?
Lots to think about, isn't there? And we've only just scratched the surface here.
We have. There's so much more to unpack.
There is. One thing that particularly caught my eye was this concept of a voluntary initiative called the AI Pact.
The AI Pact, huh? What's that all about?
Well, it's designed to help companies get a head start on complying with the AI Act, before it becomes fully enforceable.
Ah, so like a trial run. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, kind of like a testing ground, I guess you could say.
Interesting. So what's the idea behind it?
Well, it's all about, encouraging companies to start thinking about these AI regulations early on.
Right. So they're not caught off guard when the hammer comes down.
Exactly. It's a way to sort of, ease them into it, help them understand what's expected of them.
Makes sense. It's probably less disruptive that way, right?
Yeah, definitely. And it also fosters this sense of collaboration between policymakers and the industry.
Ah, so it's not just about like the EU dictating the rules from on high.
Right, exactly. It's more about working together to figure out, how to make this whole AI thing work for everyone.
It sounds like the EU is really trying to strike that delicate balance between, regulation and innovation, recognizing that AI is here to stay, but wanting to make sure it doesn't like run amok.
Absolutely. And it's not just a European issue either, right?
Oh, right, because AI doesn't respect borders.
Exactly. And the EU is kind of setting a precedent here.
Yeah, like the whole world's watching to see how this plays out, how the EU handles this AI thing.
And it could very well become, the model for AI regulation around the globe.
Wow, that's a lot of pressure for the EU.
It is, but they seem to be taking it seriously, They put a lot of thought into this.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Are there any other details about the AI Act that like really stood out to you?
Hmm. Well, one thing that struck me was how much emphasis they put on high-quality data sets.
Oh, right, because like you can't have good AI without good data.
It's like garbage in, garbage out, as they say.
Right, and we've seen examples of AI systems, perpetuating biases, making unfair decisions because they were trained on bad data.
Yeah, exactly. And that's something the AI Act tries to address head on.
So how do they do that?
Well, they basically mandate that the data used to train these systems has to be, top-notch.
What does that mean in practice, top notch?
It means it has to be accurate, representative,
Yeah.
free from harmful biases,
Yeah.
the whole 9 yards.
So they're really trying to make sure these AI systems are fair and unbiased from the ground up.
Yeah, it's about baking those values into the very core of the technology.
That's really interesting. It's like they're not just regulating the AI itself, but also the data that feeds it.
Right, it's a more holistic approach looking at the entire ecosystem.
Makes sense. And what about the role of human oversight? We talked earlier about how humans need to be in the loop, especially with those high-risk AI systems. Does the AI Act say anything specific about that?
Oh, yeah, definitely. It explicitly states that humans should always be in control, especially when it comes to AI systems that can significantly impact people's lives.
So no Skynet scenario then.
Haha. No, not if the EU has anything to say about it. They're making sure humans retain ultimate control.
Ew, that's good to hear. It sounds like the EU is trying to send a message with the AI Act, like, hey, we're not afraid of AI, but we're going to make sure it's used for good.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it. It's about harnessing the power of AI, but also, keeping it on a leash.
Right, making sure it doesn't turn on us.
Exactly. And it's a message that's resonating beyond Europe.
Yeah, we talked about that earlier, how other countries are looking to the EU for guidance on this.
Right. The AI Act could very well become the blueprint for AI regulation globally.
It's amazing to think about. The EU is kind of leading the way here, shaping the future of this incredibly powerful technology.
It is. It's a huge responsibility, but they seem to be up for the challenge.
So we've talked about the risk categories, the fines, the European AI Office, the AI Pact. Is there anything else we should know about the AI Act?
Well, there are a few more details that might be of interest. One thing that caught my eye was this concept of systemic risk.
Systemic risk, huh? That sounds ominous. What is that in the context of AI?
It's basically the idea that, these large, powerful AI models could have such a widespread impact that they create risks that could cascade through society.
Oh, wow. So like a domino effect?
Yeah, exactly. Like a failure in one area could trigger failures elsewhere,
Yeah.
potentially leading to, some pretty serious consequences.
Yikes, that does sound concerning. Is the AI Act trying to address this systemic risk?
It is. They're definitely aware of it,
Yeah.
and they're taking steps to mitigate it.
How so?
Well, for one thing, they're putting a lot of emphasis on transparency and accountability for these large AI models.
So, like, the companies that develop these models have to be upfront about the risks.
Exactly. They have to conduct thorough risk assessments, implement mitigation measures, and report any serious incidents to the European AI Office.
So basically, they can't just unleash these powerful AIs into the world without any safeguards in place.
Right. The EU wants to make sure these systems are developed and deployed responsibly, with a focus on safety and human well-being.
Makes sense. They're trying to prevent, some kind of AI apocalypse scenario.
Exactly. They're being cautious, which is understandable given how powerful these AI models are becoming.
Yeah, it's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it. We're essentially writing the rule book for this technology as we go along.
It really is a new frontier, and the EU is out there on the front lines trying to chart a safe and responsible course for all of us.
It's a huge undertaking, but it sounds like they're putting a lot of thought and effort into it.
They are, and it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out, what kind of impact the AI Act has on the development and deployment of AI, not just in Europe, but around the world.
Yeah, I mean, it's still early days, right?
It is,
Yeah.
but the AI Act is definitely a sign of things to come. It shows that governments are starting to take AI regulation seriously, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, it's better to be proactive than reactive, right?
Absolutely, especially with something as powerful and potentially transformative as AI.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about like the big picture stuff, but let's zoom in a bit on the European AI office, the guys who are actually enforcing the AI Act. What exactly does that involve? What kind of powers do they have?
Well, they've got some pretty serious teeth.
Like what?
For starters, they can investigate any company they think might be breaking the rules.
Oh, wow. So like a full-blown investigation.
Yeah, they can do audits, demand information, really get under the hood of how a company's using AI.
So they can just like show up and demand to see a company's algorithms.
Pretty much, if they have reasonable suspicion.
And wow, that's some serious authority.
It is. They need that to make sure these AI systems are actually complying with all the safety and fairness rules.
Right, right. And if a company's not playing by the rules?
Well, that's when the fines come in.
Oh, yeah, those big scary fines we talked about earlier.
Exactly. Millions, even billions of euros. That tends to get companies' attention.
I bet it does. But it's not all about punishment.
Right. Right. The European AI office also has a role in, guiding companies towards compliance.
Oh, okay. So they're not just the AI police, they're like AI consultants too.
Yeah, kind of. They provide support and advice, helping companies understand how to implement the AI Act properly.
Interesting. So it's a more collaborative approach than I initially thought.
It is. The EU wants to work with companies to make sure AI is developed responsibly.
That makes sense. But their job goes beyond just individual companies, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. They also have to keep an eye on the bigger picture, like monitor trends and identify potential risks.
So they're like the AI lookout, scanning the horizon for trouble.
Exactly. They're trying to anticipate problems before they even arise.
That's a big job. I imagine AI is moving pretty fast these days.
It is. Keeping up with it all is a challenge.
Oh.
But that's what the European AI office is there for.
And what happens if they do spot a potential problem?
Well, they can issue warnings, recommend changes to the regulations, work with policymakers to address the issue.
So they're not just reactive, they're proactive too.
Exactly. They're trying to stay ahead of the curve, which is crucial in a field that's evolving so rapidly.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
And all this, it's not just limited to Europe, right?
No, AI is a global issue, and the European AI office is working with other countries and organizations to promote responsible AI development worldwide.
Wow. So the impact of the EU AI Act and the European AI Office, it extends way beyond Europe's borders.
Absolutely. They're setting a global standard, trying to ensure that AI is used ethically and responsibly everywhere.
That's pretty impressive. It sounds like they have a massive task ahead of them.
They do, but they seem to be up for the challenge. They're really at the forefront of this global conversation about AI ethics and governance.
It's a fascinating time to be alive, isn't it? We're right in the middle of this AI revolution, and we're still figuring out how to handle it.
It really is, and the EU AI Act is a big step in that direction.
Yeah, it's a sign that we're starting to grapple with the ethical and societal implications of this powerful technology.
And that's crucial because AI is only going to become more pervasive in our lives.
Right. It's already everywhere, and it's only going to get more so.
Exactly. So we need to figure out how to harness its power for good while also mitigating the potential risks.
It's a delicate balance, and the EU AI Act is a bold attempt to strike that balance.
It is. And it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out, what kind of impact it has on the future of AI.
Well, I think we've done a pretty good job unpacking this whole EU AI Act today.
I think so, too. We've covered a lot of ground, from risk categories to the role of the European AI office.
Hopefully our listener is now much more informed about this landmark piece of legislation.
I hope so. It's important stuff. Everyone should be aware of it.
Absolutely, because AI is not just some futuristic fantasy anymore. It's here, it's now, and it's impacting our lives in profound ways.
Couldn't agree more. And it's up to all of us to shape the future of AI to ensure that it benefits humanity as a whole.
And on that note, I think we'll wrap up this deep dive into the EU AI Act.
Sounds good to me.
Thanks for joining me on this journey. It's been a fascinating conversation.
It has. Always a pleasure.
And to our listener, thanks for tuning in. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and let's all work together to make sure AI is a force for good in the world.